All right, guys, what's going on? Back with another video here, and the first thing we're going to work on today is changing out the my radiator. My radiator went bad. I was coming back from out with my kids, and foggy white smoke went everywhere. Long story short, freaked me out because I thought I had bad luck with these cars, and I thought I was over it, but the radiator ain't gonna hurt nobody, right? But we're gonna get into that, and then once we get the radiator installed. I'm gonna also install a transmission cooler because there's some other things coming up later down the road that would require me having that um, transmission cooler installed. Um, and that's gonna be it for now. There is another video I have coming up after. I have a fan that I need to install, but there is some wiring that I have to work on in order to get that happening. So maybe a week, maybe a week and some change after, I'll make another video on not just the having the cooler, but also having the fan attached to the cooler because of what's coming next down the road. All right. So we're gonna get into that, and I'm gonna try to be as detail oriented as possible because it was very complicated at first to comprehend how to wire the transmission cooler. So installing the radiator, getting it out, getting all the parts out the way, getting the fan and everything out the way was actually easy. But installing the transmission, the external transmission cooler was a bit tricky. There was a couple of maps. Shout out to John for helping me out. He was a big help because I was trying to understand because I felt like I was going to leave out. I felt like there was going to be a gap that was going to be left out, and I was like, okay, so do I have to tap into something? But I don't have to tap into anything. I was talking. He was generous enough to really sit there and explain it to me. Drew up maps. I still get it. I still did not get it, but eventually it came along well. And then I went to the store and I spoke to someone else who was there, and they were patient enough to work along with everything with me. So we'll get into that now. And before I start showing you all the different steps, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I got more videos to come, so just look out for me. All right. So as I was saying, this is the new radiator right in here. This is your part number, just in case. And this is the old radiator right here. All right, so you have, let me see if I can, so you have this right here, the 10 bolt, 10 millimeter. You have this one right here also. Let me see, focus. Another 10. And then these bad boys who are up here, they usually sit somewhere in this vicinity right here. You got to take them out. There's this one. And then there's this one that sits relatively somewhere in this area right here, just like this. So you got to take those out. Those pop out. Make sure you keep your screws in them so you don't lose it. The little reservoir that keeps the coolant in here that runs into the radiator, you have to pull that out too. While you're here, you might as well empty out all the fluid and put new fluid in there. You have to disconnect this hose. This is the hose. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit with some sandpaper because it got some debris on there. You have to disconnect this hose also. Excuse me if I'm not my French, that I'm not familiar with the names of these lines, but I'm better with showing you. You have to disconnect here, and then upon pulling out the radiator, you have to disconnect this one right here. Now, once you disconnect, I haven't had this one disconnected yet, but once you take these transmission lines out, my advice to you is face them up in an upward direction and find somewhere to zip tie it so it faces up, so you won't run into the issue where a lot of fluid is running out. Okay, because these two are gonna have to go back in, and once I put it back in and I start installing the transmission cooler, we're gonna get to these in a second. But take these out, face them up, zip tie them somewhere. There's a couple places you can zip tie them, and then all you have to do is push this forward and pull it up, and it should come out completely. So let me do that. There's a one-man army going on here, and I'm gonna get right back. So this is the new one that I'm about to install. Looks pretty clean. This hose that goes at the bottom, right? Let me get a good this hose that goes at the bottom, make sure and install that first before you put it back down in there. And make sure when you clip this in at the bottom, make sure it stops, focus, right at this guy right here. Do not put it over, because that was a mistake that I made when I was replacing my Santa Fe radiator. And I started the car, everything was cool, and all of a sudden, the temperature went back up, and I looked down, and it's because I over clipped this end onto that end. So make sure and install that first before you install it. Make sure. All right. Like I said, these bad boys right here, I'm gonna zoom in. This bad boy. You gotta push it back in upon reinstalling it. That front cooler has to slide back in that slot. Let me zoom out so you can have a better idea of where it's gonna be sitting. And then once you sit that in there, you should be able to put the coolant pin where it sits right back in that. See, it's already sitting there. I just gotta push it down right back in that hole right there. Okay. All right, so there you have it. Fresh radiator installed. This is the end of the radiation part. The radiator installation. Obviously, you connect your two transmission lines back. Connect your hose back here. That's supposed to sit here. This hose obviously goes back in here. And then you put your your Jesus Christ, help me out here. Intake. Jesus Christ. And you put your hose in the back that was sitting here. You put your reservoir that's sitting here, and that's really much. You're pretty much done. You put your headlights, your bumper, and everything back in, and you're pretty much done. But while we're here and it's open, I'm going to install a transmission cooler, an external transmission cooler. So as you know, for these 8-speed in-house 2012 and up, they normally run giving you some problems. So in order to keep it, so far, we have been told, and we have been shown, and it has been proven, with cooler temperatures, it increases the longevity of your 8-speed transmission. I wish it was the same thing for the 6-speed, because I love the 6-speed. It is the stronger one, but we figured out a way to keep the 8-speed to last a lot longer and take a little bit more beating. So the transmission cooler seems to be the solution for it. So that's what we're going to install. Like I said, shout out to John and Zach. I don't want to call him by his Instagram name because it's weird. But between Zach and John, they helped me out. John was very helpful with, again, like I said before, early in the video, he was very helpful with showing me how to run these wires. So this is your, all I know is, because I can't remember how the flow chart goes. But I know this one goes back in here. This is the one that you leave alone. I think this is your return line, if I'm not mistaken. Now I'm looking at it. So what happens is these two stay. This connects to this hose, and it runs into one side of the transmission cooler. And I have the link and everything in the description below. Actually, I will show you the link to my, I will put the link to my Amazon shop so you guys can see everything that I've done so far, and everything that I'm going to be using in the future is going to be on the Amazon storefront. I'm gonna put the link in the description below so you can see everything that I need, everything that I purchased that I've needed to make this happen. So this goes in here, and then another hose connects to here and goes into here. Yep. Yeah, I think I got it right. Yeah. Because it was really difficult. We were going through it for a hot minute, and I was trying to get to understand it because I kept feeling like I was going to leave a feed line empty. So these two stay. This goes into here, and then this goes into here. And then the best way to mount it so far I've seen is if you either do it, come on, back up. You do it this way or this way. And then you have these, you have these right here that you push in. I'm going to push them in through this right here and let it come through the cooler itself, and then it's going to stick there and it's going to be good. And then we're going to run a few tests, and then we're going to see how well it does. But I think it's going to do really well. All right. So let's do that. Enough explaining. I just wanted to make sure the way I comprehended it was the same way it would be easier for the next person who would like to do it. So there we go. Oh yes, and I forgot to mention, before installing the cooler, what you want to do, you want to fill the cooler up with the oil, transmission fluid. You want to fill it up with the transmission fluid first. Have it set up to where you need it. So as soon as you plug in everything and you seal it up, you don't have to worry about losing too much fluid. And you are going to lose a little bit of fluid, but as long as you fill this cooler up with fluid and attach it, you should be fine. It's not like no absurd amount of fluid you're going to be losing, but just make sure and fill this up. And like I said, when you detach the ones from the OEM, make sure you zip tie them facing up. So you won't have to worry about an abundance of it running out. You're going to lose some, but you're not going to lose a lot to where it turns into a critical situation. So just be mindful of that. Once you're starting to install, there is no waiting. There is just a matter of detaching, fill it up, attach, tighten, and that's it. So just remember that, because you know it's a pain in the butt to get fluid into these transmissions. All right, so like I always do, I could have been done already, but I don't know why. Like everything else in life, I always have self-doubt. So I'm gonna show you how everything is connected, because I had to recheck it a couple of times to make sure I didn't do it correctly. So check it out. Look. All right, so here you go. You got the regular hose that runs in right here, the bottom right here. This goes back in. Your hot line, that's your cold line. This comes from the radiator. This comes from the transmission cooler out here. Runs underneath here. Goes to the cooling line. Okay, if I'm saying that properly. I don't want to confuse myself again, because I had to go over it multiple times, and that's what took me the most. You don't want to have. I try not to have too much of a tight angle. By the way, this is one of the most difficult hoses to put back on. So luckily, I have two Genesis and I have a block still outside. So I end up cutting a piece out of the old transmission hose and clipping it on there and tying it in, because the one that comes with the kit, for some reason, it gives you a little hard time. I think it was like 30 seconds or something like that. And what you really need is a 3/8. But for some reason, the 3/8 that I bought from O'Reilly's, for some reason, these ones, it didn't fit like a true 3/8. So that's why I end up having to cut piece of from the old transmission hose that I have outside, not my current transmission, my old transmission from the other car outside, and connected here. And that's how I was capable of connecting this here and connecting this here. And you're gonna need some brass fittings with there's two male sections inside here. I'm gonna put that description. I'm gonna put the link for that in the description below also. And the kits, like I said, everything is from my Amazon. As in my Amazon storefront. I'm gonna put that in the link below too. So all I got to do is reconnect my fan. Reconnect, if I'm not mistaken, the reservoir over here, and then run that hose back over here. Put my cap back on. Plug my headlights back in. I don't even know why I did that. I just like taking the whole front end off because I have long arms and I need space to move around. And then we crank it up. Once we crank it up, we're gonna run through the gears just to make sure everything is flowing. I'm gonna go take it for a drive, come back. Hopefully the sun doesn't go down by then, but if it does, I'm gonna make another video tomorrow and I'm gonna finish this up.